Hello, you absolute bunch of legends. How are we all on this fateful Tuesday evening? Yes, it has been a weekend business. I've done a live, hasn't it? To be fair, I should have. Oh, there we go. Now I see. You can see me now, eh? You can see all the spots as well. Love it. Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it, since I've done a live, so I do apologise about that, guys. But I'm here tonight. I'm here for you guys tonight. So, if you do pop on, do pop a like on this post, just so I know you are watching. And if you do have any questions live right now, then please do ask them as well. It'd be great to kind of answer those, and anything that you feel you're struggling with right now, I'm more than happy to kind of go through them. And also as well, if you are watching this back, maybe later on this evening, or if you are watching it tomorrow at some point, if you're not watching it when it's live, to be fair, please do type in the comments box below #replay, just so I know you've watched it as well. And again, if you have any questions, then do pop it in there as well, because we can always kind of revert back to them and even add them into the live Q&A that we do in the future. So I'll probably do one next week as well. And yeah, let's crack on with it, team. Let's crack on with it, guys. So today what I'm going to talk about, guys, now, to be fair, PJ put a good point in about this, saying what are you trying to say about us, and it's not about that at all, to be fair. But alcohol and its effect on muscle growth. So not necessarily alcohol in general, and kind of how it makes you feel. We kind of all know that alcohol kind of helps, reduces energy days after, can affect sleep, all that malark. We kind of know that anyway, guys, in terms of how you feel. I'm going to go I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, to be fair. This is more of kind of like an awareness kind of chat, really, more about it, because I found it quite interesting, obviously, with it being the Euros, being some I've probably drank more than I've kind of wanted to or expected to be fair. And I kind of come across some new information that's kind of popped up on alcohol. Now, in terms of information in general, it's always ever changing in terms of studies that come through, so I'm pretty sure this will probably change at some point anyway. But yeah, I'd like to kind of share that with you anyway, and it's more to do with kind of awareness and the effects it can have on the body in terms of building muscle, how it can affect you doing that, and giving you a bit of an insight to that and how it actually works, but also things that giving you some take-home points well that you may be able to kind of apply to help with that. I've kind of touched on some of these points before anyway, to be fair. It's kind of regurgitation, but again, it's always good to kind of go over it as well. So kind of one of the things that I'm kind of saying about this is, I'm not saying that you should not necessarily drink moving forward, this, guys. I'm not actually saying that, to be fair. But what I'm trying to kind of do with this one is giving you information that allows you to put yourself in the best possible position so that you are able to kind of maintain muscle mass. If you are kind of really going gung-ho for it, if you're not too bothered about it, don't worry about it. It's always good to kind of know different pieces of information anyway, but putting yourself in the best possible position to help you towards your health and fitness goals with that one. Will this information change my habits? Not really, not majorly, to be fair. Again, it's kind of one of them where it's just maybe more mindful of kind of when I do have a drink and how I possibly go about it, and possibly actually the effects I've actually found from having alcohol in terms of how I felt physically, at the same time in terms of kind of from an aesthetic point of view as well. So in terms of kind of giving you a brief overview kind of protein and kind of its use within the body, or what is kind of used for in the body, protein in general, to be fair. So in terms of the body itself, it's always got a kind of high turnover of protein within the body, due to kind of the cells within the body always need renewing. So we've talked about kind of NEAT, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and we've talked about kind of BMR, so basal metabolic rate, things like that. And these are all things that kind of burn calories, but also when you're using muscles, it burns protein, or it uses proteins up as well. So they go to use for that. So it is your body has a high turnover of protein in general with that one. And this is basically called muscle protein breakdown. And that's basically, again, when you exercise, usually at a higher intensity, the muscles that you use and lose protein, essentially, or it's kind of broken down to kind of sustain the exercise that you do. And kind of the flip side of, so we'll call that kind of MPB. The opposite side of that is muscle protein synthesis. Now, I know some of you have actually do know about this already because we've had the conversation, or some people have asked me questions in the past about it, which is absolutely fine. But basically, muscle protein synthesis is basically the opposite, where the proteins that have been utilised by the muscles and now have kind of been utilised and gone, they are replaced with new proteins, and that's muscle protein synthesis essentially. And that's kind of taking in protein, whether that's through food, whether that is through, I don't know, whey protein or protein kind of supplements, whatever it may be, it can be done that way. Now, usually when you kind of work out, and this is like a higher intensity, or whether you've done a heavy weight session, or whether you've done quite a challenging session in terms of what it is, your body goes into a catabolic state, which is basically breakdown of muscle. So muscle protein breakdown, that is the catabolic state essentially, to a degree. And that's usually if you've trained hard. And now, what alcohol actually has been shown to do with that one is, your body's like a furnace essentially when that's happening. Now, when you have a furnace or you have a fire, so say for example you've got a log burner, or maybe not a log burner, or whether you're trying to get a barbecue going in the back garden, sometimes you chuck turps on it, and so it goes, starts firing up even more, and starts burning all the coals even more so. It's kind of the same with alcohol, okay? So alcohol, when you intake it, especially when you are in a catabolic state, or when you have a little bit of muscle protein breakdown, alcohol actually acts as a fuel to that, so makes it kind of burn even quicker essentially, or kind of enhances the muscle protein breakdown, okay? So in turns that is losing more muscle mass essentially with that one. So one thing that we don't want to do by that is we want to be aware of that. Now, it is possible that muscle protein synthesis can be hampered supposedly by alcohol in terms of how it kind of works and how it helps build the muscles back up essentially. And that's due to kind of pathways. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but it's to do with kind of pathways in which your kind of cells regulate themselves and how they kind of regenerate essentially with that one. But supposedly they can be affected by that, and that's usually through signaling essentially. Now, in terms of studies that have kind of come through recently, essentially alcohol consumed with actual protein. So say for example you have trained at 6 o'clock in the evening, for argument's sake, and then you've kind of eaten out and then had alcohol after. And may I point out now that we have all done this, so I'm not suggesting that I haven't done this, guys. Well, and even when I knew this information, I still did it. So it's kind of made no difference in terms of what I do with that one. But it's quite interesting. Is alcohol consumed with protein actually reduces muscle protein synthesis by 24%, which might not sound like a lot, to be fair, but again, kind of after you've exercised and then you're getting your protein or getting your food in, essentially, it's what you would usually do if you are not kind of drinking alcohol at that moment in time, is you're not getting the best out of it. So it's affecting your regeneration of your muscles, that kind of recovery process, or building muscle mass essentially through your food or through your supplements. However, you're kind of getting your protein in with that one. And actually when you have it or combine that intake with carbs as well, it is actually further reduced up to 37%. So this is where it starts to get a little bit bigger. Now, in terms of alcohol itself, what actually alcohol is in terms of calories, and it's not a macronutrient, but we can kind of give it a kind of bracket as such. But alcohol has 7 calories per gram when you kind of ingest it, and most of the time alcohol tends to be combined with carbs, but it does tend to be what you're drinking essentially as well. If you kind of drink more your spirits, I wouldn't worry too much about that in general. Probably more to do with possibly increasing fats ever so slightly with that one. Plus, like I say, in terms of whiskey's got some fats in it, which is fantastic and lovely. Well, love it. But wine is made from fruit basically, which is carbs. Beers has hops in it, wheat, barley, things like that as well, guys. Okay, so these things are definitely going to kind of combine towards your calorie intake and your carb intake essentially with that one. So again, something to kind of take note of in terms of that. Now, in terms of working towards a goal essentially in terms of alcohol and in terms of calories. So we've kind of spoken about this before, but again, I think it's quite important that I kind of at this point in there as well. So say, for example, whether you are looking to lose body fat or lose weight, whether you are looking to increase muscle mass as well. Hey, Such, you are my lovely. Hope you're well. If you've got any questions, give us a shout as well. Such, got any questions about anything at all, please do give me a shout. Sister from Another Mystery, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Change my mind, no wonder. Great song. But yeah, so say for argument's sake, you are counting your calories right now, okay? And your calorie intake for the day is 2,500. So that will probably, for me personally, what I'm doing right now, that probably give me possibly just under maintenance for what I'm doing right now. Now, say for example, I was to go out on Dr. Vic. How are you, Squire? Hope you're well, pal. I'll be answering your question as well, dude. I'll be answering your question in this as well. But say for example, I have 2 drinks, okay? And just for argument's sake, let's just say it's lager. Or like beer or whatever it is. Now, usually, on average, per drink, it's usually 200 calories, okay? Guesstimation, without kind of tracking something specifically, but usually on average about 200 calories. Now, I have 2 of them, that's 400 calories, and that takes me down to 2,100 calories for the rest of that day to kind of focus on my goals. Now, whether that's cutting body fat, or whether that's muscle surplus, we'll go off mine at the moment, it's probably just under maintenance, okay? So, kind of like a lean cut. With that one. So one thing we would look to do if that was the case is try to focus on keeping your protein as high as possible. Now, bearing in mind what I've just said before with regards to actually the combination of drinking alcohol and maintaining muscle mass as well. Drinking alcohol is always going to affect it regardless, but that doesn't mean that we can't try to focus on keeping it up as high as possible so we can kind of mitigate the losses as much as we possibly can, essentially. So one thing that we could do, rather than focusing on, say, for example, you're focusing on all your macronutrients, so your protein intake, your fat intake, and then your carb intake is the rest of it. So, as a general rule, when I have done it before, in terms of, I don't tend to do it, to be honest with you, I tend to focus on protein and calories, just because I don't tend to eat lots of fats anyway, to be fair, so majority, I kind of probably do it this indirectly anyway, so around 160 to 180 grams of protein intake. My fats is usually around 50, maybe 60, 70 grams of intake, and then carbs is the rest of it, which is about 300 plus, maybe 300, 350, give or take with that. Now, say for example, I'm trying to hit that. Now, because of the alcohol, it kind of throws out the rest of it. It throws out the fats, throws out the carbs. So rather than focus on that, just focus on your protein intake, so getting your 200 grams of protein, and then focus on the calories. Now, if you're thinking about just, you're not too bothered about kind of your protein because you're out, or you're just not you're not kind of, well, basically just focus on the calories, essentially, with that one, which is absolutely fine as well. But protein and calories would be the one to kind of lean towards if you're trying to kind of stick towards a goal with that one. And as I've always said to you guys previously, and the tips that I'm going to give you in a second will always revert to the answer to life, which is protein and water. Of course, guys, okay? Protein, for me, this is for me, and the reason why I say this, now I've had discussions with other nutritionists, I've had discussions with other people in the fitness industry as well, those who aren't as experienced as me, those who are well more experienced than me as well. One of my beliefs, and this is a personal belief, is if we can maintain muscle mass on the whole, then in terms of kind of working towards a goal, will take care of itself. And I've always believed that, and I still believe that now. But in terms of someone wants to kind of lose body fat, again, focus your protein and your calories, or calories and protein. It will always be the main thing to focus on for me. And then the water as well, because these are going to be the things that's going to help you satiate you, essentially, with that one. So just a couple of things to consider with that one, guys, okay? So in terms of alcohol and its actual effects on the body, in terms of trying to build muscle mass or even maintain muscle mass, okay? So if you're trying to combine your alcohol when you exercise, and you're going to kind of increase muscle protein breakdown, so muscles breaking down at a quicker rate, or a rate which is hard to kind of get back, up to 24% when it's combined with carbs as well. So alcohol basically increases by 37%. So how can we kind of mitigate those changes with that one is when you're kind of working out, rather than, again, this is just if you're really bothered about it more so than anything else. I wouldn't necessarily say you've got to completely change your routine, guys. This is just an awareness thing. And those who are really, really focusing on trying to maintain muscle mass or really build muscle mass, or at least be aware if you're kind of drinking every weekend, it's going to affect it, okay? And that's including myself as well, because I found this quite interesting at the same time, and it'll kind of give me a bit of food for thought, and I hope it does for you guys as well. So some night out tips for you, okay? In terms of your workout, try to, say for example you're going out on a Friday or a Saturday, which a lot of the guys on Zoom anyway tend to do, work out in the morning as early as you possibly can, or put as many hours between your kind of protein-rich meals, between your training sessions and when you're going out, essentially, as well. Because again, that's going to mitigate or trying to offset the muscle protein breakdown, so it allows you to kind of regenerate the muscles before you start kind of plowing your body with alcohol, basically, with that one. Now, in terms of you drinking once or twice a week, now 24% reduction of muscle protein synthesis doesn't necessarily sound like a lot, but again, as we get older, it becomes a lot more challenging to be able to maintain muscle mass 100%. In terms of once you hit 50, your body starts to about 40 actually, your body starts to lose muscle mass, okay? That's just the fact of the matter. So we have to try and maintain it with that one. So, and also, as you guys, the longer you guys train as well, the beginner's gains as such. So after the first 2 years, maybe 3 years at a push of training, a decent kind of training, solid, efficient training, then the beginner's gains, you don't tend to get them as much anymore. Same with myself now. I'm at that point now where I can always get to a point where I build, so I can get to a point where I build a certain amount of muscle mass. I can still get there, but anything on top of that now, for me personally, it will take longer than it may say some of you guys, just because I've trained for a lot longer, for argument's sake as well. So this is why this information can be quite important. So if it means important to you in terms of working towards your goals, or you are really trying to maintain muscle mass, but you find that you're drinking every weekend or twice a week, and you're wondering why am I not building up, then that will have a big effect on it, okay? So like I say, 24% doesn't sound like a lot, but twice a week doing that, it's gonna offset your results. So again, just be aware of that, okay? And as we get older, it doesn't get any easier, okay, guys? So again, that's just more of an awareness thing with that one. And then kind of the final one is just basically understanding the consequences or the negative effects of the what's happened there? The negative effects of alcohol or a night of heavy drinking, essentially, that can have on muscle growth as well. So just kind of plan what you're doing and adjust it accordingly to kind of what you're doing, essentially, with that one. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go out and have a good time. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying you've possibly got to be a bit more realistic with your results as a direct result of that, or just kind of manage what you do, how you do things a little bit differently. But again, one thing I'd always say is with that one is always up your protein intake, always up your water intake as well, and ensure that you're trying to get as much sleep as you possibly can to help with recovery from a night out. Again, that's definitely easier said than done, because you're always going to offset things that you're doing with that, guys, essentially. So a few things for you to kind of take away with that one, and I hope you find that useful in terms of alcohol, guys, okay? But as I said, I've not gone through that to stop anyone from doing it. I'm not saying that alcohol is a devil, because I'd be an absolute hypocrite if I did say that. But all I'm saying is just be aware of kind of the effects of it, okay? I found it interesting. I'll probably modify when I do drink. I've worn that all, to be fair. I don't tend to drink that much anyway. Just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sundays every now and then as well. So it's not that much, really. Grand scheme. I'm joking, but it is Monday to Tuesday. But yeah, so it's not that much in the grand scheme of things, guys, okay? But again, something to be aware of in terms of that. So I hope you find that useful. Any further questions of that, guys, do give me a shout. I'm more than happy to kind of talk through that a little bit more in detail, or kind of chuck in some links to some of the research papers that I've kind of looked at to kind of delve that from, guys, okay? Now, so I was asked the question as well. So any other questions, guys, well, now please do fire away. I'm more than happy to answer those, guys. So I was asked a question yesterday on how to maintain muscle mass if struggling to get workouts in. That was by Dr. Vic. frontliner. But yeah, so now, I hope you don't mind, just to give a bit of context around that. Busy, if you kind of got a busy schedule, struggle in terms of work, you struggle to kind of get, I don't know, 1 to 3 workouts in a week, or you're kind of limited to kind of one training session, this is kind of what I would suggest to kind of do with this one, okay? So, one of the main things you've got to kind of take into consideration in terms of trying to maintain muscle mass when kind of it's difficult to train, or if you're not able to train certain weeks, is it's always going to be a case of damage limitations more so than anything else. And even that still will be very difficult to maintain muscle mass, on possibly nigh impossible to be fair. So it's just trying to offset the kind of muscle loss that may occur and likely will occur as well. But one thing I said about the protein, to be fair as well, is keep your protein high, keep your protein intake as high as you possibly can. And do whatever exercise you can do, whether that, and that's strength stuff as well, to be fair. So say, for example, I'm not saying that you have to do 20 minutes work or even 10. Honestly, guys, I've done, when I'm at my lowest in terms of motivation or just limited on time, I just think I need to get something in. I cannot be arsed. Don't want to do a squat. Don't want to do a bench press. Don't want to deadlift. Definitely don't want to deadlift. Then I use these tools for myself, and they've worked quite well, to be fair. So in terms of, if you literally have only got like 10 minutes to kind of get something in, and this is, you've got to be quite disciplined to do this, in all fairness. So I'll come back to that in a second, mate, but I'll kind of go through this first, is kind of working on AMRAPs, and I'm talking about AMRAPs to absolute failure. Now, this is if you're struggling here and there, so if you can do this once or twice a week, you probably need to go to failure so we can get enough stimulus in the muscles to create change, or to mitigate the kind of breakdown of your muscles, guys. Okay, again, muscle protein breakdown, essentially, with that one. But basically, yeah, so going to absolute failure with exercise. So, for example, in terms of push-ups, mechanical advantage method, so with tempo. So what I mean by that is, or mechanical advantage method in general, is going from a hardest variation in terms of positioning. So usually done with bodyweight exercise, mechanical advantage would be a, I don't know, like a pike push-up. So basically doing a push-up upside down, or it could be a weighted push-up. As many reps as you can. Go as close to failure as you possibly can, okay? I wouldn't necessarily go to you can't do a rep, because once you can't do a rep, then you're pretty fucked for the rest of it, essentially, with that one. Sorry if our pizzas in the room as well, such a sorry about that. Just swore. Then as soon as you've done that, 10 seconds rest, you'll then go into the next variation of the push-up. So, say for example, you're doing a weighted push-up, it would just be the normal push-up. Again, you will go for an AMRAP. Try and keep that tempo in there, 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down with that one, as close to failure as you possibly can. And then you revert back to the next regression of the push-up, or mechanical advantage push-up, which will be your kneeling push-up, for argument's sake. And again, you will go to absolute failure when working on that. Now, why we're doing that is because we need to get that burn. We need to kind of create that stimulus in the muscles, where we can get that breakdown, essentially. So it needs kind of protein to start building back up, essentially. Will that build muscle? 100% it won't. Will it maintain it? It's possible. It's possible you'll maintain most amounts of it, but it's likely you'll have a little bit of muscle loss. But again, it's going to put you in a better position than not doing anything at all. But that's where your food and your protein intake is quite crucial with that one, okay? In terms of like a row variant, and I would try to do this for all body movements, to be fair. So when I'm kind of struggling for time, I'll always get like a push movement in there, it's like a push up. I'll always get like a pulling type movement in there, so some form of row. I'll always get a squat or a split squat type movement in there, usually split squats, to be fair, rather than a double footed squat, and then a swing, to be fair. And that's kind of my go-to when I'm kind of pushed for time, or when I've been away, when I want to do something. I'll always get these in, and this is kind of my go-to as well, guys, what I tend to do. So in terms of a row variation, would be just like a single arm row, or it could be a seated band row. It's up to you, to be fair. But I would do a cluster myo rep set. So what is that? Basically, you're doing an AMRAP to failure on the single arm. So literally, you can't get full range of that movement with a row. So a single arm row, as full, when you can't get full range and you're literally struggling to pull it back, switch arms straight away and you'll do the same. Again, keep tempo in there if you want to. As many reps you can, so you can't get full range, then back to your first side. As many reps you can, so you can't get full range, then back to the opposite side. Doing that 5 times, okay? And if you record that down and you know for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, you're just not going to have time, you're going to have to revert back to this, is if you find that you're able to do 5 sets and get over 5 reps for every single one of those sets, then you can look to increase tempo of the row, or you can look to add a pause in there, whatever it may be, to make the exercise harder. That can be done for all exercise, not just a row. I just tend to do it with that one. And that's a cluster myo rep, okay? Myo rep method. A hinge movement will be your swings, and I would just set a timer for like 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever it is, or just kind of one go, do as many reps you can in literally one go, to be fair with that one. And in terms of kind of squat movements or quads, glutes, I would always revert to split squats and do kind of drop sets. Now, what I mean by that is, so doing a split squat with weight and going for as many reps you can so you can't do any more split squats, then drop the weight, go body weight, and do as many reps as you can split squats, and then you'll do the opposite leg, weighted as many as you can split squats, and then as many as you can on the body weight, and then jump straight into a wall sit, okay, 90 degrees, and hold for as long as you can, so you physically can't do any more, so you physically can't hold. It's harder because the intensity is a lot more dramatic than it possibly will be in the sessions that we usually do or tend to program. I'm not a big fan of going to failure the best of times, just because I think it teaches people bad habits, but also I don't think it's absolutely crucial to kind of do. Yeah, I'll add it in there, and I have added it in there in recent programming, of course I have, but I think if you are struggling to get training in terms of time you've got available, it's worthwhile getting it in to create that stimulus. Or if you're only able to do say for example you can only do 1 push exercise within a week, you can do everything else but just 1 push exercise because you've got access to that piece of equipment, then I would suggest doing this type of stuff then, essentially that one. So I hope that makes sense in terms of that. If you don't have time, okay, if you don't have time to do like a session here or there, you can kind of choose any one of those exercises or chuck a few of them together and then bang it on there. I'll kind of put it in the comments box below, kind of just a bit more detail about that, just so you can see it as well, because I know I've kind of chucked it out there and it probably sounds a bit like, oh, I can do that, can do that, can do that, and it's in one ear out the other, and I completely understand that too, so I'll pop it in the comments box, what I've written down as well, so you can have a look at it as well. Now, in terms of if you find that you do have time, and you find that you can get 1 session a week, and now this is kind of one that I've put together as an example in terms of 1 workout that you would do, essentially. But if I know I can only get 1 workout in within a week, again, it's always whole body stuff. A lot of the programs I tend to be whole body, but what they tend to be is whole body anterior. So it might be you'll be doing shoulders, pecs, quads, tibs, and maybe like a pulling exercise essentially with that one, just so you can get your upper back fired up, just to support the shoulders a little bit more. And then the second day will be whole body posterior, so it'd be, again, deltoids might be involved with that one. Pecs are kind of usually involved because, again, that'll be the main day for it. But everything else is back exercise, so whether it's a row, a pull-up, a deadlift, a hinge, an RDL, glute exercises, calf exercise, things like that. And then Tasha, my lovely, I hope you're all good, sis. If you've got any questions, Tasha, do give me a shout as well. Do give us a shout, mate. And then the third day will tend to be a whole body day, just like well, not a random mix to be fair, but just to kind of get some extra work in there and higher volume in terms of that one. But yeah, so what I would make sure I've been looking to do in terms of that would be to try and build strength in there as well, would be to look at getting some form of kind of strength work in there, 100%, but making sure I'm getting some back off sets in there or even drop sets. And again, incorporating sets to failure. And again, it goes against what I've just said before, but if you can only get 1 session in a week or you're struggling for time, getting drop sets in there and going to failure is a real option that you should consider. Okay, so an example kind of day I've put together for this one. So in terms of 1A, or the first exercise that you would look to potentially do, will be a squat. Could be a back squat, could be a goblet squat, could be a Goliath squat. It's up to you, depends on what you have available to you in terms of weight. Now, say for example, you are doing like a barbell squat of some kind. I'd suggest doing like 3 sets of 6 to 10 at a relatively challenging weight. And then 3 sets of 10. So when you get into 10, you should have like 3 to 4 reps in reserve if you want to push it a little bit more. Tasha, I'll come back to that question, mate. I'll have a look in a second. I'll just go through this first and I'll come back to that. And then go for a 4th set, but take 20% off that weight you've been working at and literally go for an AMRAP. Now, if you're doing a back squat, you don't want to go to failure because it's just going to kill you, and we don't want that essentially. Okay, and if you kind of have a breakdown in form, it's very hard to kind of safely come out of that squat. Okay, don't really want people to be kind of doing that. But again, go for an AMRAP where that burn is very, very real. Okay, an absolute burn, but not failure, but as close as you can where it's safe. Then the second exercise that I would do, so again, we've worked to quads up. Squat is a whole body exercise, to be fair, anyway, because you've got to use your body to keep the weight up, whether it's a kettlebell, whether it's a barbell, it doesn't really matter, to be fair, with that one. If you use a kettlebell instead of a barbell, you could just add tempo for your 3 times 6 to 10 reps, or you can add a pause at the bottom. Things like that is absolutely fine. Second exercise will be a bench, or it could be a row. I've just put bench in there, I don't know, I think it's like kind of more a powerlifting type program, this is, to be fair, but it works. Again, 3 times 6 to 10 reps at a challenging weight. So again, if you were to get between 6 to 10 reps, 3 to 4 reps in reserve at the end of each set, essentially. And then again, taking 20% off or a little bit of weight off for a 4th set, and again, going for an AMRAP. If you have a spot, go to failure. If you don't have anyone spotting you, again, go as close as you can. Or just like where your last rep is a bit of a grind, but you're not in any danger of dropping it on your face, okay? Because no one wants to do that. I've dropped a bar on my neck once. Oh my God, thank God. And that was with a spot, and it still landed on my neck. So I'm just saying, no, you don't want to do that, guys, okay? And that's what I would do with that one. So again, we're incorporating your kind of sets to failure without necessarily going to failure, but as close as we can. So again, as I said previously about the push-ups and the mechanical advanced exercises, we have to create stimulus in the muscles. The only way we can do that is really, really working them as hard as we possibly can, okay? And kind of getting close to failure with that one is, to be fair, Tasha, I was about like 15, 16 at the time, to be fair, so I was very, very young. It's one of them, pushed up, and then just like dropped it on me. It just went right down. They are my friends, so yes, they are my friends. Fortunately for them. Unfortunately for me, I'm still alive because of them, to be honest with you, so I've got to give them some due. So in terms of the bench, always scared to lose strength week to week. Yeah, it's one of them, dude. Again, this is where these are things that will help, to be fair. And again, I've used bench as an example. It doesn't have to be bench. It can be a push-up variation. It can be a dumbbell bench. It can be a floor press. You can do them with kettlebells. It can be done with everything, this can, guys, okay? I'm not necessarily, it's a bench press. I just said bench. So you just know hopefully you know, it's a pressing exercise or a chest press type exercise, okay? Or a pectoral dominant exercise with that one. Then 3A and 3B, so your kind of 1A is kind of one exercise slot, 2A is another exercise slot, so two sets of 12 minutes. Then 3A and 3B will be another set of 12 minutes. With that one, we combine a RDL, variation of your choice, dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, up to you, to be fair. 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps, with the last set being a kind of a drop set, okay? So this is where you might need different weights for this one, okay? So again, last set, going for as many reps as you can, so over the 12 reps, till you can't do that weight anymore, drop it, go down to the next rep, and doing as many RDLs as you can, and so on and so forth. You combine that with your Z press, so single-sided seated shoulder press, essentially, with that one. So you could do an isodynamic variation with that one. So isodynamic is basically holding one weight up into the air whilst working one side. It could be just holding one down whilst working one side with that one. Isodynamic, that's basically what it is. You're holding whilst working, essentially. So isodynamic, holding, working with that one, essentially. That's what that means. So you can either hold it above the head, working one side, so you're constantly working this arm, so you're getting that burn, Again, always, this side will be the stronger arm. I would always suggest working it and then working the opposite side with that one. Or you could just do racks and then work it with that one, essentially. But I wouldn't necessarily go to fair with that one, 8 to 12 reps, because again, anything overhead, I just wouldn't suggest it, to be fair, in my opinion. I think that people will be far too prone to kind of shoulder and neck injuries, essentially, with that one, so I would never kind of go for an AMRAP with that type of exercise anyway, especially isodynamic. But you combine, you kind of superset the RDL and the Z press with that one, and then you'd have similar to what I said in terms of the myo reps, previously for the row, will be a lat pull down, or a exercise in which you can pull down. It could be chin up, could put a band somewhere above your head on a bar, chin up bar above your head, and then pulling it down, so you've got enough tension to make it quite challenging with that one. Anything like that that's like a pull down, or you can even do a row movement, that'd be absolutely fine. Or bent over row, single arm row, it's up to you. But I'll put lat pull down because I've done this before, and it works really well, and the burn is, oh my fucking god, is very, very real. Very real, guys, okay? Shit me, I couldn't lift my arms above my head for about a week after doing something like this. But basically, similar to what I was saying about the rows before, 5 AMRAPs, and when I say AMRAPs, I mean literally to absolute failure. Absolute failure. You can't do any more reps, essentially, because you can't get down to below the chin or down towards the chest when pulling it down there. Then you know you're done. You'll then basically hold the weight above your head. Hold it above your head. The lat pull down. You keep it up into the air, so you get a little bit of a stretch. 5 to 10 second pause, and you pull down again as many reps as you can till you can't get all the way down. Then you'd like to say you'll get that stretch, and then 5 to 10 seconds rest, and then as many as you can. Can't get the full range, and then 5 to 10 seconds rest, and you'll do that 5 times, essentially, with that one. You can do the same with a band, put it somewhere above your head for a door, and do a pull down. If you get a little bit of a stretch in it, it does make it better, because that's where you kind of really get that pump and that burn, the muscle starts to fill with lactic acid, and that's what we're looking to create that stimulus, kind of like a form of occlusion training, essentially, with that one, to a certain degree. But yeah, I would suggest doing that. And again, if you were to record it down, you were able to do 5 sets of 5 reps minimum, then you want to increase either resistance, increase weight, or whatever it is, make the variation harder, add a pause somewhere in there, more tempo, it's up to you. With the final exercise, adding in walking lunges or lunges times 50, essentially with that one. So we're getting a whole body movement in there, and we've added in kind of methods to the exercise, so we really get that burn in there, if that makes sense. So with the squat, 3 sets of 6 to 10, do your bread and butter, and then taking weights off to go for a back off set, and then smashing out to failure, or as close as we can to failure, no form breakdown. Same with the bench press as well. 3 sets of 6 to 10, a good challenging weight. Take a bit of weight off, as many reps as you can. PJ will tell you, we've done it with PJ, you're right, pal. We've done this with PJ previously as well, so you'll have an idea of how this works. But again, it's got to be really, really challenging in terms of weight that you're working at with that one as well. We then superset your RDLs. The RDL would have a drop set in there as well. If you were to do it with RDLs, because it's working the hamstrings, I would expect to be walking like John Wayne for at least a week. To be fair, get off your horse and drink your milk, kind of shit. Shoulder press, again, just get the shoulders in there as well. No kind of drop sets with that one, because again, just got to be safe in terms of overhead pressing. You'll be tired from previous exercise anyway. Lat pull down, again, is a pulling exercise, but working full range, so rather than just kind of going forwards and backwards, which you can do, to be fair, but again, we're really working that full range with that one, hence the overhead pull down, rather than just like a particular, your normal row, essentially, with that one. Myo reps, 5 sets AMRAPs with that one, you'll definitely feel the burn, and then walking lunges. So Viv, I hope you found that useful and something that you could potentially do. Again, that one, I'll pop it in the, I'll actually pop that in the comments box below as well, just so again, you've got an idea of how it would work. And I'll give some explanation of why you would actually do certain things at the same time as well, so it makes a little bit of sense. Now, I'm not saying you should necessarily do this session if you could only do one within a week, but any sort of session you do, so any of you, if you find you can only train once within a week and you're at home, you want to get something indoor, some of these exercises, you can still use some of these tools, so some of these methods, so like your back off sets, your drop sets, your isodynamics, your myo reps on certain ones with these guys, okay? And it will work quite well in terms of trying to work towards maintaining muscle mass. But again, if you're doing it once a week, it's going to be hard. But again, we're trying to what was the term I used before? We're trying to basically we're basically trying to limit your damages, or damage limitation essentially with that one, trying to offset the losses as much as possible with that one. Okay, and the other way to do that is to get a little bit higher volume in and to really drive up that stimulus for those exercises. Okay, so I hope that helped with that one. So some questions were asked. So I feel as I have lost my diet and muscle mass because of injury. Where do I start? Training first and foremost. When it comes to anything, when it comes to like falling off the wagon as such. I don't like using that term because I think it should always be a cycle in which you're doing. With any injuries, and as we have done, so to be fair, do what you can do. So modifying exercise so it works for you. Don't stop exercising. Never stop exercising. We can always modify things up. As soon as you lose it, you lose all momentum. And I know firsthand that being injured can really get you down. But to be fair, the after effects of an exercise, no one ever regretted a workout, to be fair. I mean, there was one that I regretted. It's just spewed up my eyes and mouth and ears and shit. But it's stuff every time. But yeah, no one ever regretted a workout, guys. So I'll just get back on the training, get that in there, and then focus on your protein. First and foremost, protein and water. First and foremost, that's what I would do. Such to be fair, 2 to 3 sessions a week, get them in. Protein and water, just make sure you're getting it in. I wouldn't do anything else, to be fair. That's my opinion. And I'd say that'll probably get you started heading in the right direction. So I hope that helps with that one. How long does a weekend full of booze, not nutritional food, take to get out your system so your workouts feel good again? Right, so it probably takes at least 72 hours for alcohol to get out your system. For 72 or longer than that. I think it's 72 hours for your liver to start functioning properly again, so it starts using all the bodily functions it should do. I think it is, give or take with that one. So, yeah, you're fucked, basically. Look, I'd always... Okay, so this is one of the points that I'd say about alcohol in general is you don't want to... This is easier said than done, to be fair, because I do it myself, and I have done it. So I say this with I say this tongue-in-cheek and with a pinch of salt. Drink to have a good time, don't drink for the hangover, essentially, or it's something that doesn't affect your day too much the day after, essentially. So how you do that, you know your body better than anyone else. I can get away with drinking 10 bottles and being okay the day after, essentially. That sounds like an absolute alcoholic, doesn't it? But it has to be bottled. If I did that with pints, like 5 pints or 4 pints, I'd feel rough as arseholes. That's just the way I work. Bottles, I tend to function better off. There's not as much in it, and there's no chemicals and shit in it as well. It's pretty straight, and I'll always go for the better, not that anyone doesn't, but the better quality stuff at the same time. I find it works better for me. So yeah, it's finding that kind of balance of drinking so you're not it doesn't waste your day the day after, but only you can kind of find it out. Not mixing your drinks, having high quality stuff. Spirits are probably better as well, and better quality stuff. Your gin and tonics would be fine. If you drink lagers, I'll probably try to stick to bottled stuff, if I'm being honest with you. That's my opinion. In terms of actual scientific nature of that, I don't know. But in terms of like how the liver functioning, I think pretty sure it's 72 hours after, so your body can start burning body fat and functioning properly. Otherwise, in terms of your water intake, it's always going to be struggling for a couple of days after. But a good way to kind of help with that is during the actual, when you're on your session or you're drinking, such as just try to get as much water as you can in. So like, as my mate who's coming up this weekend actually, contrast drinking, which is beer, water, beer, water, beer, water, and it works a treat, to be fair, but you will be pissing like a racehorse. So I hope that helped Tasha with that one. Went from Sunday after 2 days booze and I was dying. Yeah, that's natural, to be fair. That's absolutely natural. But again, it comes down to just knowing your limits. Drink to have a good time. Don't drink for the hangover, or try not to drink for the hangover, or just know your limits, essentially, with that one. That's all I can say with that one. So I hope that helps. Bit loose-ended. It's completely individual. It's complete. For me personally, I can get away with training with a hangover. I just do it, get up and do it. To be honest with you, if I needed to. Right, so good. So okay, done. Thanks, Jamie, Tasha. Been trying to do that for the last few. But again, it's in terms of feeling. But this is the thing, isn't it? It's being realistic with it at the same time. Look, we're all adults here. Like, I don't want to patronise, and I do it myself, so I can't really say anything like in terms of that. I've drank and felt horrific the day after, and not trained for a week because it's ruined my week. But again, probably just now more so than ever, I will do something rather than nothing at all. Do I feel good for it? Not when I'm doing it. But again, I think I'm probably in terms of. I'm at my best now in terms of being quite disciplined to get my training in more so than ever. It's easy for me though because I've got a gym at home. I know some of you do, some of you don't. I find it okay to kind of do that for myself personally, so I'll just do it. But yeah, still don't know my limits. We'll keep trying and practicing. To be fair, if you haven't, it's one of them, isn't it? Like, it depends who you're out with. And that's what I mean. When I've been out with certain people, I've gone absolutely mental and lost the plot. But other times I haven't. So it just completely depends. To be fair, just try and get water in. Try and get water in between drinks or whilst drinking. To be fair, that'd probably be the best way to do it. I don't know of any other way that's going to help with that. To be fair, Tash, unfortunately, so all I can do is apologise about that. But learn your limits, Tasha. Learn your limits. You're better than that. I believe in you. And when I learn my limits, I'll let you know what to do. Essentially that one. So any other questions, guys, do give us a shout. I'll give it another minute. Otherwise, then I'm going to jump off there. J for gin. Gin and tea. But yes, guys. So hope you find that useful, guys, tonight. So went through alcohol and its effect on kind of maintaining muscle mass. In terms of combining that with intake of protein, it can affect muscle wastage, without going into too much detail, by 24%. Adding carbs to that up to 37%, essentially that one. How we can offset that is try to kind of spread out your workout and your intake of protein-rich food as far away from your alcohol intake as much as you possibly can, or just don't do it on the same day, essentially that one. And because it adds as a fuel to losing, being in a catabolic state, so muscle protein breakdown, essentially. Way to kind of work around that is, first one I've just said. Second one is just be aware of it. Third one is day after, eat as much protein as you can, drink as much water as you can, get as much rest as you can, essentially to kind of work off the hangover or work off the effects of the alcohol. And then it kind of comes down to just being aware of your limits in terms of how you're going to feel the day after as well, essentially. But again, that's kind of the individual feel, to be fair. There's no anyone, some might be able to handle more than others. It just depends on that, to be fair. In terms of trying to maintain muscle mass on limited workout time, adding in AMRAPs or working to failure on your exercises, 10 minutes work, just smashing out some push-ups in kind of mechanical advantages, so hardest variation to the easiest variation, AMRAPs all the way through. You can do the same with the row, same with the swing, same with the split squat. And in terms of if you're only able to train once a week, then looking to get whole body movements in there, get your strength stuff in on the main stuff that you want to get it in, and then look to get some drop sets and working to failure on some of those as well at the same time, guys. Okay, squad. Now, I hope you found that useful. I will be back again, or doing one of these back in the group again on Tuesday evenings, as I have been doing previously as well. So I'll be back on those, guys, at the same time, team. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening. You absolute bunch of heroes. And I'll see you later in the week, squad. Okay, so peace out. It's out. Down!